In this lesson for Task 3A Limbo, we're going to be looking at the electric bass. Now the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the fact that it's written in a bass clef. Now this may seem fairly obvious, but so many of my students kind of start trying to read this as if it was a treble clef. So that's my first thing. If you're not sure of the notes of a bass clef, you can just do a quick Google and you can find that really easily. But that's what I want to draw your attention to. The next thing, since the last time we met, I have changed a few things. So if we just briefly go back to the drum track, I've changed much of the levels to try and meet that of the actual original piece. Okay, so just be very aware that my levels have changed. And there's a little part that I'd missed in that, and I'm going to try and share the screenshots in that particular video. But it's at the end of this intro section, the last bar, there is a fill. So for the drum track, there is a fill, and that happens here on bar 8, it happens here on bar 36, then it also happens here on bar 72. So just keep that in mind, that there is a fill there and you may have to work that out. And Edexcel will be looking for you to put that in, so don't forget that, okay? So my bad for missing it, but there you go, there's a bit of information that you can try and work out for yourself. Okay, the structure of this bass part, what I would recommend to you guys is trying to play this in. Okay, it's quite a live bass, and I would definitely recommend you guys play it in. And it's not that difficult, and there's only 3 parts to learn. So where I've coloured it red, that is one of the parts, and you can see where I've just doubled it up. I've just copied it into all of these slots here. Then the next part is this green part, and then for the chorus, the only other change to the chorus is this first part of the chorus right at the end, and I've just coloured that slightly differently just to show you that's changed. But if you can, I would look at playing that in and you'll get a better representation of this part. However, as you can see from mine, I've looked at the phrasing. Now it's written quite straight, and what I've had to do is kind of shorten the notes as appropriate, and you'll have to do this for your own instrument because all instruments are the same. But what I'm hearing is they're very short notes in certain places and they're longer in other places. Okay, so you listen to the piece. One technique that I always employ for this is I solo the track and I press play, and with this playing I look at the actual track from the bass clef so I can see the notes and actually see how they're playing. So let me just show you that now. So let's press play. And just by looking at that, you can see this first note is shorter than where it's written. Initially it was written at this point here. So you can see I've actually made it shorter. And actually, if I listen to that again, I can see it's a little bit shorter. The reason I've written it longer though is based on how my release envelope, or sorry, my ADSR envelope works. So there you go, there's a bit of a hint there. Let's go back to my piece then. So let's just play it. So I can show you what I've got, and then I'll play their piece again so you can see what they've got. So here it is. Here's my bass track on its own. And that's lovely. I really like this one. Let me just play theirs just so you can see the contrast. As you agree, I think that's quite close. I can still tweak this further, but it's not too bad. It's quite close. And as I go through, you've also got to look for automation, because there are parts where it gets louder and it gets quieter, okay? I haven't put my automation in yet. I'm waiting to build up a few more tracks, but we will get there. So let's look at the instrument now. The instrument is quite a complex one, but I found a really good preset to get started with. So the ES2 is where I've started out. And the preset is this FM picked. Come down to it, it says synth bass, and there it is there. I've manipulated this in just several ways. So the first way is up here. In this routing section, a lot of the envelopes and a lot of the filters are routed up here, and I've had to just tweak them to kind of fit. The initial sound is bouncing left and right like crazy, so I've had to kind of tweak that to fit a little bit. And it's just here's the main area, and I've just kind of adjusted it so it fitted. Now the other area is in my releases, so I've brought the releases down. I've also brought the attack down, and you're going to have to get them as close to what you want as possible, but just be very aware that that's what I've done here. Other than that, it's pretty much the same envelope. I have adjusted the compression ever so slightly. And I believe I've just added this reverb as well. So I've added my own little reverb here and just put that on just to kind of make it gel. One of the other things you have to realize with the bass is let me just pull this out of the way, is that it has to lock in with the bass drum as well. So one thing I like to do is just solo both sections and just see how they work together and try and get the balance right between them. And I don't mind that too much. I could probably bring the bass down a little bit and just kind of match it in a bit, but not too bad at the moment. And then finally, just play it with the whole track just to see how it sounds. I'd like it to be a little bit more lively. Now, that's where playing it in is going to get you a few extra marks. And actually, remember for this track, we can also have a couple of audio parts. If you know a bass player that fancies giving this one a try, it's going to add quite a lot of life to your track. You do have to do the vocal though, so don't use all your audio tracks. The panning for this is straight down the centre, as is the bass drum, and that's what's making them sound so locked in. And I've also brought the volume down here. I think that is pretty much all I have to say about this track. Enter in your parts, spend a little bit of time just getting the shape of those notes right, getting the balance right, making sure it gels with the drum track, and then I'll see you in the next lesson.